And joining us now is Robert Murrett, professor of international affairs at Syracuse University and a retired Navy intelligence officer. Professor Murrett, great to have you back on. As we just heard from Owen, the U.S. has bolstered its military presence in the Middle East, including with naval assets in the Persian Gulf, the Red Sea, and the Mediterranean. Do you think this show of force will act as a deterrent for Tehran?
Yeah, Tracy, great question. I think it will. I think, the overall purpose of having those additional forces, USS Georgia speeding up the Lincoln Battle Group and to add to the USS Theodore Roosevelt, which is already over there, and all the land-based aircraft and additional assets we have throughout the region. As you just heard, the idea is deterrence and hopefully de-escalate matters. But it's just prudent with all the different points of pressure that we've got throughout the Middle East to have a strong presence there and to upgrade it a little bit.
Yeah, and many had expected Iran to attack Israel last week, and now we're hearing this could happen in a matter of days. What type of response do you think that we could anticipate from Iran if it happens, and why do you think it hasn't happened sooner?
The Iranians have a lot of options. I think, the question is whether they do something directly against Israel or something indirect with all the proxies that they have. We just talked about the Houthis down in Yemen and the activity they're taking in the Red Sea, but also Hezbollah, Hamas, because of the additional activity that's taking place in Gaza and elsewhere, and also all the proxies they have in Iraq and Syria, which can conduct operations against the U.S. forces that are on the ground there as part of Operation Inherent Resolve. So the Iranians have a lot of options. I think they're probably having a vigorous discussion inside their own councils in terms of how they want to do it. And my sense is the fact they haven't responded already is because they have a disagreement internally about how they want to do whatever happens next.
Yeah, Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Galant recently said that Iran and Hezbollah are threatening to harm Israel in a way they have not done in the past. What do you think he means by that?
I think he is probably alluding to the fact that they want to do something different. The large-scale attack that they had about 2 months ago was very unsuccessful in spite of all the different kind of platforms, cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, and unmanned aircraft that they try to launch against Israel directly. So they're probably looking at some other option that'll be perhaps more successful than what they tried the last time, to include the surrogates that we mentioned earlier.
And if Iran does attack Israel, how do you think the U.S. will respond? How do you think they should respond?
We have to be very careful about what we do in the region, and it can be frustrating, but we have to do a very tough balancing act to deter action by the Iranians as much as possible in terms of some kind of response, in concert with our other allies in the region, all the Gulf states, the Jordanians, for example, and others that we have to look after. So it'll have to be very measured and hopefully de-escalatory, which is the overall goal of any response that we might have.
Absolutely. We know Iran essentially rejected Europe's urging to call off the attack. We also know that Cardinal Pietro Parolin talked to Iran's president on Monday regarding the situation. Do you think it's possible that his appeal on behalf of the Holy See to avoid a more serious and widening conflict will have an impact? And do you think that cooler heads will prevail?
I would hope so. And we communicate with the Iranians, too, directly and indirectly. We have a lot of ways to pass messages to the Iranians. I think people would be surprised how often we're able to engage with them directly or indirectly. And the overall message that I'm confident we're giving them now is to ask them to exercise restraint, because the Iranians, they don't want to have a conflagration in the Middle East, and they do want to respond to some of the recent attacks that have taken place, especially the one that took place inside Tehran. But I'm sure we're communicating with them and letting them know that we hope they de-escalate, and we're probably doing so in very strong terms.
Professor Murrett, I quickly want to ask you this about our troops over there in the region. We have, I guess, roughly 45,000 men and women stationed over there at various bases throughout the region. What of them? What are the concerns there?
Just, the force protection posture that they have, whether they're ashore or at sea, it has to be heightened just based upon where we are now. We need to have a strong footprint in the region as a deterrent, or else things could really get out of control if we didn't have those forces that are stationed over there. We also, as you know, have to look after them very carefully, whether they're in the Gulf states, in Iraq, and at sea in the Red Sea or the Eastern Mediterranean or the Gulf of Oman and so forth. They're scattered pretty widely, but they're looked after very carefully, and I'm confident that they're going to execute their missions very effectively and act as a continued deterrent.
Yeah, we hope that happens for sure. Praying for it. Professor Murrett, great to be with you as always. Thank you so much for your insights. God bless.
Good to chat with you, Tracy. Good day.